Math 70, section 6.6. It is regarding solving polynomial equations, and the way you want to do this is through factoring. So we have polynomial equations, and that's an equation that looks like an expression, and it's set equal to something. So it's an equation. You have to get it set equal to 0. The degree of the polynomial equation is the highest exponent, and that highest exponent tells you up to how many answers there will be. So like you did in previous chapters, whenever you have an equation, let's say if I gave you 2x plus 4 equals 10, you would solve this equation. You'd subtract 4, and you would divide by 2, and you'd say the answer is 3. Because 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 plus 4 is 10. There's an answer. Well, what do you do when you have polynomial equations and you have to find out how many answers? It could be more than one answer. Okay, so what you're going to do is first learn about the zero product property. The zero product property says if you have two numbers and your two or more numbers being multiplied together, one of them has to be equal to 0. So two or more numbers being multiplied together that equals 0, one or the other have to equal 0, or both. So here's some examples. Okay, so this first one right here, it says you have a polynomial and it's already factored for you. So if I were to have given you, you're going to see this polynomial as, let's say, 2x squared. If I FOIL this, I'm foiling it, first outer, inner, last. 2x squared plus 3x minus 20. Okay, so in this section, you are going to see a polynomial equation like this. And this has a degree of 2. So this means there's up to 2 answers. Okay, up to 2 solutions that make this true. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure your problem's set equal to 0. You're going to factor it by using one of the techniques we learned in 6.1 to 6.5. And in this case, it ends up being, this is a guess and check, or factoring with the AC method. So once you factor it, which you get that, now you're going to set each of these equal to 0. So x plus 4 equals 0, so subtract 4. So you end up with 2 linear equations here, and then 2x minus 5 equals 0, add 5, and divide by 2. So x is equal to 2.5, okay? So there are 2 answers to this problem, -4 and 2.5. If I were to put these numbers one at a time into this equation, it's equal to 0. So here's some practice I wrote up for you. Notice how all of these are equal to 0, and they're already factored for you, okay? So what you're going to do is set each of these products equal to 0. Remember, it's the zero product property. So if you have a product set equal to 0, one or the other or both are going to be equal to 0. So for this one, 2x equals 0, divide by 2, x is 0. In this one, it's going to be the opposite. X plus 4 equals 0, so x is equal to -4. So this one has 2 solutions. So x equals 0 or -9. You could do it quickly. 0, and it's the opposite, because -9 plus 9 is 0. This answer will be, n can be -3. So -3 plus 3 is 0, or 9. 9 minus 9 is 0. This one, there's 3 answers. -8, +4, and I'm going quick, -1. This answer would be negative 1/3 and 5. Here's a trick for you, a shortcut. It's the opposite of this number, so negative 1/3, and the opposite of that. This one would be z equals, the opposite of this is 3, 4, and z is negative 4. And if you don't believe me, take 4z minus 3, set it equal to 0, and do it the long way. So 4z equals 3, divide by 4, and z is equal to 3/4. See, same thing. So it's the opposite of this over that. Okay, so now, what do you do when you have a quadratic equation and you are asked to solve it? Okay, so here we are, example 2. So what do you do when you have a quadratic? How do you solve this? So here's our first example where it's not factored. X squared minus 4x equals 21. So our first problem is it's not in standard form. You want your problem in standard form. Standard form means it's set equal to 0. So bring this equal over here. So this 21 has to be switched to the other side. So it's going to become a negative 21. And then you have to be very proficient on your factoring. Which type of factoring is this one? This one is what times what is negative 21 but adds to be negative 4. So it'd be negative 7 and positive 3. Now you're going to solve it. So your answers are 7 and negative 3. Okay? Example number, that was 3. We're going to do 3 right now. Example number 3. So this one is not in standard form. So we need to bring 14x to the other side. You always want a 0 on one side. So you have 3x squared plus 5x equals 14x. So I'm going to subtract 14x. Okay, so 3x squared, this is going to be negative 9x equals 0. Now, what are you going to do here? I'm going to GCF a 3x, and you're left with x minus 3. And now set each of these equal to 0. So if 3x is 0, x has to be 0. And for this one, x has to be 3. So those are your two answers, 0 and 3. Example 4. Looks like we've got a couple items that have to go to the other side. So we have 3m squared minus 3m equals 2 minus 2m. So I'm going to add 2m. So I've got 3m squared minus 1m, and this 2 is going to go to the other side, and it's going to become a negative 2. So now this one is our trial and error one. 3m, I think a 2 and a 1 here. We're going to, it's FOIL, F-O-I-L. We don't need to F and L it because I put the 2 times 1 is 2 and the 3 times 1 is 3. I just need to outer and inner multiply these two. I get I'm going to put a negative here. That'll give us negative 3m and a positive, which would give us a negative 1m. So now set each of these equal to 0. So 3m plus 2 equals 0. Subtract 2 and divide by 3. So m is equal to negative 2/3. And then m minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 and m is 1. So there's 2 answers there. Okay. Example 4. So the next one is 5. Now, what is wrong with example number 5 is the fact that we have to FOIL this and then bring 6x to the other side. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. And then plus 5x. And then minus 15 equals 6x. So now if I combine these two, I have 2x squared minus 1x minus 15 equals 6x. And now I'm going to subtract 6x. So I have 2x squared minus 7x minus 15 equals 0. So now I'm going to have to, this one is our guess and check. So 2x and x. And let's try a 5 and a 3 here. So this would be 10. Oh, got it. So this will be a negative and a positive. So this will be a negative 10 plus 3 is a negative 7. So set each of these now equal to 0. X is going to be negative 3 halves and 5. Remember, these are equations. You're solving them. Okay, so set each of these equal to 0 and solve. For example 6, we want to bring negative 12k to the other side. And so we have 4k squared. This negative 12k is going to become a positive 12k on the other side. And I'm putting it right in the middle. Plus 9 equals 0. Now this one looks like a perfect square trinomial. 2k, 3, and the product of them two gives me 12. So this factors to be 2k plus 3 times 2k plus 3. And now since they're both the same, I really only have to solve one. Subtract 3. Divide by 2, so k is equal to negative 3 halves. Remember, I told you the degree is up to how many answers you are going to have. So this one has one answer, which is fine. And we have example 7. Example 7 says, looks like we need to factor something out. We need to pull out a negative 3 out of this. Let's pull out a negative 3. And we're left with x squared minus 2x. So 3 goes into 72. 6, 1, 12, 24 times. So that'd be minus 24 equals 0. And then what times what is negative 24 but adds to be negative 2? And that would be negative 6 and positive 4. Now, you are going to have an answer. Remember, see how the degree is 2. We have up to 2 answers. So you have x equals 6 here and x equals negative 4. If there was an x right here, you would have another answer of 0. But this is just a number. It does not generate a solution. And the last problem I believe I gave you is example 8. We are throwing a ball from the top of a building. So a ball is thrown upward from the top of a building 96 feet tall. The building's 96 feet tall. And it has an initial velocity of 80 feet per second. So this is your velocity. They will give you this equation. They want you to solve this equation, and right here is where the 190, I'm sorry, we want the time when the ball will be 192 feet from the ground. So they're giving you this equation. In the next few sections, you're going to be putting a little bit more effort into getting this equation set up. So all they want you to do is solve this. So quickly, I'm just going to, you want to make sure, because these numbers are rather large, we want to get a 0 on one side. So subtract 192 from 96, and you get negative 96. Then what happened here is we factored out a negative 16. and we're left with t squared minus 5t plus 6. And then when you factor this, this is a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. What times what is 6 but adds to be negative 5, and it's negative 3 and negative 2. So the answers are 3 and 2. So it's going to reach 192 feet at 3 seconds and at 2 seconds and then at 3 seconds. Oh, right here. At 2 seconds and at 3 seconds. So this is the path that a ball will take when it's thrown from the top of a building. It's thrown upward. So 192 feet from here to here. It's going to be t. This is t. T represents the time. So at this time, which is 2 seconds, and at this time, remember the ball is going to go up and it's going to come back down. So at 192 feet, these are the two time frames that it's going to reach that height. And that's it.